30 years ago, some of you know the story. I fell from a 3-story building, or 3 floors building, onto a concrete pavement, July 29th, 1991. J1 students, 10, 11 years old, leaned on the railing gave way, or a segment gave way, and we came crashing down. One of us ruptured his liver, died that night, but I didn't know anyway. But I crashed. And bones broke, pierced out, and I went into a coma, woke up in the ambulance, and with each heartbeat, I could see my blood just spurting out rivulets. And I said, this must be a dream. Touched my head, scalp was engorged with blood, head felt like twice its size. I said, this must be a dream. I know when you want to know if it's a dream, what do? You pinch yourself, right? So I pinched my leg, or my thigh. I couldn't feel nothing. So I said, looks like a dream. But what I didn't know then was that I had suffered both a severe traumatic brain injury, as we call it, and a spinal cord injury. So I was paralyzed from waist down. Fast forward, ended up in the hospital. Trouble will catapult you towards your destiny. We got to Faith Medical Place, July 29, that's my mom's birthday. The Archbishop Idahosa was on his way to the airport. He had a missionary engagement, foreign trip, I think. And then he heard, because it was a school, it was a mission school, that something had happened. So he came to the hospital. It was a bedlam. It was chaos, it was crisis, because everywhere you had mangled flesh, everyone was looking grotesque, blood spilling, everyone was in a panic mode. Then the presence ushered in. There's something about the presence of the Holy Ghost. And I remember that booming voice, peace, peace, everybody be quiet, calm. And then he came to my bedside. And I told him, sir, the only thing I need right now is a miracle. Because it was clear to me that I was finished. I looked at myself, 10, 11-year-old, went to school, only to end his life this way. I said, sir, all I need is a miracle. And then he sat down on my bed and began to discuss the future. Not many things he told me, I'm still yet to say some of those things, but I began to ask myself, how can somebody be seeing somebody who's bleeding to death and be discussing the future? What future does this lad hold? But as a spoke, faith welled up in me. As a spoke, faith welled up in me. Then he said, my young pastor, then he breathed on me. And I told him, sir, I've always wanted to see you. In those days, we didn't have the celebrity trappings people have now. There was a deep calling to deep. We're kids, but whenever the Archbishop of the House passed by, it was as though Jesus had just passed by. But it's okay, you know what I'm talking about. It was, I don't know how to describe it. Sometimes I just feel for people. So that's why you have to relate more with us, who related with them, who related with God. Well, it's something else. I told him, sir, I have always wanted to have a one-on-one encounter with you. Because I attended the school, so we saw him a lot of times. But I always wanted to have a one-on-one physical encounter with you. I said, it took me falling from a 3-floor building to have this encounter with you. And I said, if I have to fall again to see you, I will fall again. It touched him. Said some more things. And I was moved to the hospital, teaching hospital. And then, of course, later found out that I was bleeding to my brain. That was likelihood. We didn't have CT scans or MRI scans in those days. So they had to go blind. So they had to drill like 3 holes into my skull. I still have some of the testaments, and carry it with pride. The drill into the skull to bring out the blood. And after they evacuated the blood, I remember the surgeon coming to meet me that night after 3 days and said, you still can't feel, you can't move, you can't control your urine, you can't control your feces. So we've tried all we can. But I'm sorry, you will never walk again. No one will say, just got real. It became real. So 10, 11 years old, this is how I'm going to be paralyzed. So I turned and faced the wall. And I'm going to invoke the faith my parents had taught me. There's a food you eat when you have time to eat that sustains you in the days of fast. It's not in the days of trouble you begin to call upon the Lord from the beginning. You call upon the Lord that you have known before the days of trouble. So I began to invoke that faith. All I'd learned through children's church. I began to invoke those scriptures. All I learned in children's church and all I heard the Archbishop of the House say in the hospital. All he said about the future had no me in a wheelchair. So I began to invoke. For 4 weeks, I was paralyzed. Couldn't control physics, couldn't control urine. I had to have a bed bath. Couldn't have a bath. So the nurse had to come bathe me. After a while, I could feed flat, without gargling, without my body had adjusted. One day, one Thursday morning, I woke up and heard people quarreling. The doctor was quarreling with the nurse. Why? Because, spinal cord injury protocol, we keep the feet propped up. So the needed sandbags to prop my feet so that in case I one day recover feeling, I don't end up deformed. Because this is how you stand. There's this V format. So that's what we always do. When you're lying flat, we propped up with sandbags. Just make sure, in case the person ever recovers, in that faint, frail hope, the person doesn't end up deformed. And so the doctor was shouting at the nurse because he came and found that my feet were crossed. So he felt that during the bed bath, the nurse had mistakenly left my feet crossed. So he shouted on the senior nurse. Senior nurse came, saw what was happening, shouted on the junior nurses. And then I woke up, eyes groggy, still foggy with sleep. And I said, I was the one who crossed my feet. The argument ended. They both turned to me in unison and told me, impossible. There's a state people get to because they have been so much in trouble that trouble becomes their identity. They called her the woman with the issue of blood. Her name had been forgotten. Have you got to that state where everybody sees you by that problem? That guy who cannot pay his fees. That one who's always owing rent. That one who's still looking for a job. That one who's yet to get married. It said impossible. Then I woke up because it dawned on me what I had said and the import of what I had said. So I told them, I crossed my feet. All right? If you cross your feet, the little proof is that you do what? You uncross it. So he told me, uncross your feet. As soon as I uncrossed my feet, the doctor staggered. As in, when you see a ghost, he staggered. He almost fell. Then he dashed off when he called the seniors. And then all of them started coming down, running. It's not possible. It must be a miracle. It's not possible. It must be a miracle. Then all of them gathered round my bed like children. So I say, cross it, uncross it, cross it, uncross it, cross it, uncross it. And then there was a lot of shouts and rejoicing, and it's okay, now you can move. We have to teach you how to walk. So they called the chief physiotherapist, and they gathered me, they propped me up, of course, I've not stood in a while, so it's just, I stand. Move your right feet. Okay, move this leg, so I move this. Move your left feet. Left. What is left foot? They said, this is left. If this is right, this is left. I move left. Now move your right. Try move, no, not this one. This is left. So now move this right. God. In 4 weeks, the brain had forgotten. Because the brain had concluded this information was no longer necessary. This guy would never walk again. So start saving memory space. I use it for something else. The brain had forgotten. So even my body had received the message that this guy will never walk again. But I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. So once in a while, glory, I just do some jogs. They said I'll never walk again. In the same hospital where they said I'll never walk again, some months ago, I just became the best staff of the month. In the same hospital. So I came to announce to somebody here, in that same place where you received shame, that same place where you received shame, the someone told me something, and the best way to render it is in colloquial terms, that a God that uses baskets to fetch water to disgrace the bucket is that God I came to introduce to you today. In that place where you received shame, your testimony will be broadcast by others. Oh, God, there was time I was in medical school and something happened, and one exam, I so flunked the test before the exam. I so flunked it, as in flunked it weller, that it was technically impossible for me to pass the exam. So I went to the exam with that at the back of my mind. Like, the continuous assessment was so bad because I had skipped a number, so everything from then was wrong. There's MCQs. So I had skipped a number, so everything was wrong. By the time the result came out, it was 27 over 100. I didn't know such scores were possible. And that people won't have the mind to release it without calling first to ask, but what happened? This is an ungodly score. They released it with pride. I knew there was trouble. Then I went to the exam, and one of the questions was, interestingly, one of the drugs, it was a pharmacology, was ivermectin. Now it's popular everywhere. I went blank, ivermectin. Of course, in medicine, if you don't know the name of the drug or what it's for, you cannot even tell about its indications, contraindications, so I was blank. But somehow, in 5 minutes, this person was asking this person in whispers. This person was asking this person in whispers. I didn't ask anybody. Information was just flying over my head, front to back. But I was conflicted. And I said, people know me. I don't ask. I don't tell anybody in the exam. I don't want this to be my testimony. Lord, what am I to do? And I heard one voice say, son, what are you still doing there? Go and submit your paper. I said, I don't answer the whole question. I know where I'm coming from. I said, go and submit your paper. I don't hear that voice twice. When I hear God, I know. I don't have any disputations. It's as clear, it's not clearer to me than any human being speaking to me. I stood up, I was in my paper. Of course, the result came out, and I had a near distinction. I still don't know how they marked it. But there was someone in my class, because she knew, or he knew my score. When you fail, you have to resit the exam. Went about telling people, because it was like something that never happens. So do I have the receipt? It was like news. So the lady came to meet me and told me, they said you failed pharmacology. And the person has gone about announcing it. I said, I will not correct that testimony. On the day of the exam, when the receipt holds, and they don't see me in the hall, the person who went about telling them will now have the responsibility of going back to announce, say, I'm sorry. The guy passed through. I'm sorry. He actually passed. People will go about apologizing for the errors they made in announcing your downfall. I'm speaking from the depth of my heart because this hits me so much this morning. There's somebody going through something here, and even in your heart, that becomes your identity. And you ask yourself, will this ever pass? I came to announce from the throne of grace that the same God that raised Jesus Christ from the dead, when everybody said it was impossible for him to resurrect, the same God that used Jesus to raise Lazarus from the dead, when everybody concluded that was past recovery, that I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though that situation was past recovery, yet shall he come back to life. For I believe in miracles, and I have seen a soul set free. Miraculous, the unchanging word revealed through Calvary. There's a part that gets me. I have seen a lily plant push its way up through the stubborn soil. That's why I believe in miracles, for I believe in God. I have seen the lily plant push its way. Said I'll never walk again up through the stubborn soil.